Well, Labor has billed this as a traditional Labor budget, which for Labor means increased spending in health and education, maintaining services and laying what it says is the groundwork for the future.
We will deliver a record health budget, $14.2 billion, up 4%. A record education budget, $12.4 billion, up 7.2%. Almost $250 million for the 875 extra teachers that I said during the election campaign that we would deliver. There is a $10.1 billion infrastructure program, creating the jobs that we need right across our state. $240 million for skilling Queenslanders for work. $200 million focusing on building our regions. And of course, as everybody knows how passionate I am about the Advanced Queensland Initiative, $180 million, $48.4 million in drought relief, $100 million to protect and enhance our Great Barrier Reef.
Well, there are another 2 budgets to go before the next election, so really I thought if you're going to do a boring budget, then do it now.
What I will say is that you've got a $500 million schools and hospitals fund, which is going to be helping to create employment and activity right across the length and breadth of our economy. You've got a $200 million Building Our Regions program, which is going to be commencing a year earlier. There is no infrastructure freeze in Queensland, as the opposition suggests. We have a lot to look forward to in Queensland, and this budget sets Queensland on a new pathway.
But what they have laid the foundation for is debt repayments, and they're doing that sort of in what some people would say a somewhat sneaky way. They're going to take $4.1 billion from the general government debt, and they're going to shift that onto the government-owned corporations, so that's your energy companies, your water companies, your ports.
We will continue to have our government-owned businesses remain 100% government-owned, 100% in government control, and to see 100% of dividends coming back to government. The end game for Labor was always don't sell assets and reduce debt. This budget delivers on both of those.
What they're also doing is that they've taken what I guess you could call a contribution holiday for the public servant super fund. So they're going to save about $3.6 billion by not putting into this fund for the next 5 years.
No, what we've said is that we will be giving consideration to our defined benefit scheme, funding and putting an injection into some of our GACs. That would only be on the basis that they would get the sort of return they would expect if they were making their own independent investments. There will be no change to workers' entitlements in terms of their superannuation. In fact, they'll be more than fully funded, more than 100% fully funded.
The government's election promises came to about $2 billion. That's been offset by savings in other departments of $2.315 billion.
We have been given these ministers the task. Those ministers are in full control of their agencies. They've presented these savings, which have been verified by the Treasury, as savings that are achievable in their portfolios. This is not being done with mass sackings. There are no voluntary or forced redundancies required to make these savings.